السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. قال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال الله تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. إن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. أما بعد. I begin with praising Allah, the Almighty, who has brought us here again together on this blessed day of Jumu'ah. Brothers and sisters, we are nearing a very special time of the year for Muslims. This month of Dhul Hijjah, which inshallah will be starting in about a week. It's the month that carries the Hajj and Eid al-Adha. Now, many of you may already know the virtues of Dhul Hijjah and its significance in our religion. And it's the month which holds the Hajj, it's the month which holds the Eid al-Adha, a chance for us to get together with our families and celebrate. And much of this significance comes from major events that go back to the life of our forefather Ibrahim alayhi salam. So today I wanted to focus on a particular aspect of his life and see what lessons we can take for our lives today. So as you read the stories of Ibrahim alayhi salam, many of which are told to us directly by Allah in the Quran, you notice incredible examples of tawakkul, of trusting in Allah, putting our trust in Allah. So I wanted to share two examples of this incredible tawakkul and two stories from the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam that are directly related to the acts that we do in Dhul Hijjah. And then these examples show us truly how we can trust in Allah. And so I'll go over these examples, and then I'll go over why it's important for us to build this trust today, and a practical techniques we can use to do that in our daily lives right away. So the first story is the famous story of the well of Zamzam. We all know the story of how Ibrahim alayhi salam took his wife Hajar and his young son Ismail alayhi salam on a journey in the desert. Now at one point he is commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to leave his wife, leave his son, and to head back. Now he's leaving his family in what is completely barren desert, which ultimately ends up becoming the holiest site in Islam. It's the site of the Kaaba, which in itself is I mean, if you think about it, it's such a almost ironic but incredible example of the majesty of Allah and how His power reigns over everything in this planet, that He took what was essentially a barren desert and created, what is essentially like one of the busiest places in the world. Millions of dollars are spent to go see that place. People from all around the world come there, and what it used to be, literally a desert with nothing. So subhanAllah, it's an incredible example. So going back to the story, he leaves his wife and his son, and as the heat of the desert becomes intense, Ismail, the baby, starts to cry, and his mother begins to run between the mountains of Safa and Marwa, trying to find someone to help them, some sort of support. Until finally, by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, water begins flowing out of the ground in this completely dry and barren desert. And so much water starts to flow that Hajar is worried it's going to run out, so she tries to stop the water. She starts saying, "Zam, zam, stop, stop," so that the water doesn't flow away. And that is where we get the well of Zamzam. Now, look at the trust of both Ibrahim alayhi salam and Hajar in this situation. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu narrates this whole incident, and he says how at first Hajar was wondering, why is he leaving us? Why is Ibrahim leaving us in this desert? It's just me, myself. He leaves them with a few dates and a little bit of water, and there's no idea of when he's going to be back. It's nothing around them, no support, nobody there to protect them from anybody who tries to harm them. But then she says, "Did Allah command you to leave us?" And Ibrahim alayhi salam says, "Yes." So she said, "Done. It's okay. We'll be fine. He's not going to neglect us. If Allah commanded you, we're okay. We'll be fine." This right here is tawakkul. This is trusting in Allah. Staying alone with a hungry baby in the barren desert, even though if you think about it reasonably, neither Ibrahim alayhi salam nor Hajar had any reason, reasonably according to their reason, to say some sort of support would come. They would have never imagined that water would start gushing out of the water. They didn't know that was going to happen. They simply trusted in Allah's command that Allah will take care of them, and they both said, "Alhamdulillah, we have the confidence we need to go ahead with this." So that's the first example. The second example of just incredible tawakkul is another famous story, and it is the story of the sacrifice. And many of us have heard this story as well. So to give some background context, Ibrahim alayhi salam desperately wanted a child. And he patiently waited, he begged Allah for years and years, many, many years of begging and waiting and hoping from Allah that he would be able to have a progeny that would take on the work that he was doing of spreading the deen of Allah and bringing Tawheed to the world. And he was waiting and hoping, and finally, after asking of Allah for many, many years, he's finally blessed with a beautiful son, Ismail alayhi salam. And some narrations say that he was 86 years old when Ismail alayhi salam was born. That's how long he waited. Now, put yourself in his shoes. Imagine wanting something for decades, wanting and hoping and desiring it, and it finally comes. After all this asking, after all this begging Allah, it finally comes in the form of a beautiful baby boy. A boy for whom you have such high hopes that he's going to take the message on after you, and he's going to guide the people towards Allah. Now imagine, right as the boy is growing to become the man that you had hoped for, you are told to give him up. It's not that, some event happened, an accident happened, and he passed away, or something out of essentially your control. He's saying, Allah is commanding Ibrahim to take control, to give up this child willingly. This child that he's wanted for years and years, and just got a short while ago, and now he has to give it up. None of us truly would have the strength to let go, but Ibrahim alayhi salam was not like one of us, right? He knew that it wasn't just some random request, it was the command of Allah. Directly from Allah, commanding that he's supposed to sacrifice his son. Did he fight it? Did he start looking for alternatives? Did he get angry and push back? No. He knew that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants takes precedent, and so he goes straight to his son as soon as he gets the command, and he makes it clear. And the dialogue is just incredible between the father and the son. Allah tells us in the Quran, فلما بلغ معه السعي قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. Then when the boy reached the age to work with him, Ibrahim said, "O my dear son, I've seen in a dream that I have to sacrifice you. So tell me, what do you think?" And he, Ismail alayhi salam, replies in a manner that is just astounding to even think about. He says, "O my dear father, do as you're commanded. Inshallah, you'll find me patient." No question, no like, what does this mean? Why? How could you do this? Why would you do? Just simply, you've been commanded by Allah. Go ahead, do it. Inshallah, I'll be patient with it. That right there is tawakkul. It's recognizing that your goals, your hopes, and your dreams and your desires are all secondary to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants of you. It's knowing that no matter what happens, Allah alone is the best of planners, regardless of what you wanted, what your plan was, what hopes and dreams you had for the future. And what are the results of this tawakkul? Think about what came of these two events. Think about what Hajar did. All she did, on the outset, is she was running between two mountains trying to find help for her child. And now this same practice, which, was a very momentary practice, is now something that is done by millions around the world. People fly from all around the world to Mecca to do this one practice. And Ibrahim alayhi salam, his tawakkul in sacrificing a son, that too became a practice that is done by millions. Right? This is the result of true tawakkul, that Allah made their actions into an entire pillar of Islam. Their tawakkul, their sacrifice is honored by millions every year. And how many of us can truly say that we put our trust in Allah to this level? How many of us even understand what it means to trust our affairs to Allah? See, the thing is, we live in a society where that it's built upon sort of praising the individual, right? It is hyper-focused on the importance of individual effort. Me, my effort, my rewards. This idea of like, I worked hard to get to where I am, right? This is a big focus in our society, and it's put in us even from basically elementary school, where it's like, you put in the effort. If you study hard, then you're going to go to a good university. And if you go to a good university, you'll get a good job. And if you get a good job, you'll have a good life. Like, all these things are placed on your individual effort, and that you can create this world, perfect world that you want. And the problem with this mindset is that it deludes us into thinking that we have full control, that we control the outcomes. But think about it. Do we really control anything? We can't even make our heart beat by ourselves, right? Like, the literal thing that keeps us alive every second is not in our control. And we sit there thinking that we, have our 10-year plan, our 15-year plan figured out, and we know exactly how to get there. We can't even control, like, how we breathe when we sleep. It's all up to Allah, right? So ultimately, we have no choice but to trust in Allah. Of course, we have to make our efforts and do the work, right? Trusting in Allah doesn't mean that you just sit by and do nothing. It means you do the efforts while recognizing that it's not the efforts that we're doing that bring the results. It's Allah alone who brings the results. Our efforts are the means, but the result is with Allah alone. Like, how many qualified, hardworking people are still unemployed despite their best efforts, right? It's not the effort. I know so many young brothers, and mashallah, a lot of young brothers here, some of whom might be looking to get married, and I know so many of my friends who found a spouse in like the last place they would have ever imagined. Again, they were trying, but it's not their efforts. It is Allah that decides the results. So Allah wants us to make the efforts, right? He will judge us on our best efforts, but He also wants us to recognize that He alone controls the end results. And there's this incredible thing when this idea kind of sits in your mind. There's this incredible sense of relief and stress relief that comes when you recognize that all that is expected of you in any situation is to just put the effort, right? Put your best foot forward, put your best effort, and the results, they're not in your control anyways, right? So doesn't that make life so much easier when you realize that all that is expected of you is the effort and the results are with Allah at the end of the day. So you want to start a business, you want to find a spouse, you want to make a career move, any challenge that you're facing, all you do is put your best effort. That's it, you're done. Your work is done, and then Allah will take it from there, right? You know, the place where disappointment comes from is this idea of us thinking that we control the results. Because when we put in the effort, we say, well, I did this, this, and this, why didn't it work, right? It's this idea, again, that goes back to that I, by my efforts, can control the results, and I did everything right, why didn't it work? Results in disappointment, right? So stop thinking about the results, right? And trust the results to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like Ibrahim alayhi salam did. As long as you put your sincere effort and trust in Allah, then you did exactly what was expected of you. You can sit back and relax. You're done, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will handle the results. And yeah, the results might not always be how you wanted, despite your best efforts. You know, Allah's decree might be against what you had wanted. And that's what it is. That's life. Our job as slaves of Allah is to make the most of His decree. And, you know, sometimes things will go in our way, sometimes they don't. But the wonderful thing is, as Muslims, we know that there is always a right way to respond to any situation. No matter how difficult, no matter how against what you wanted the situation ends up being, even if you put all your best efforts, every situation has a right response when it comes to considering Allah's opinion, right? So, as long as you did the right thing, as long as you responded to the situation in the right manner, you can rest assured that in the sight of Allah and in front of the only one whose opinion truly matters, as long as you did the right thing, why worry, right? So in the next part of the khutbah, inshallah, I'll be going over a practical way to implement this mindset. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Brothers and sisters, you want to see a real world example of this kind of tawakkul. We've been talking about Ibrahim alayhi salam, and many of us might be thinking, I mean, that's Ibrahim alayhi salam. He's a prophet, he's blessed, he's the friend of Allah, he has so many titles, mashallah, how far am I from that? We have a real world example of that tawakkul in the brothers and sisters suffering in Palestine. They have lost all hope in people, right? Because time after time, people have let them down. The world has let them down, and most of all, the leaders of the Muslim nation, the people of their own faith who should have been the first to stand up, have let them down the worst. So they have no one except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have truly, completely put their trust in Allah alone. And you know what happened as a result? Because of that trust, they smile and say Alhamdulillah as they bury their children. They say Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is enough for us. We don't expect anything from people anymore. We've been disappointed enough. We just have Allah in this world. So may Allah relieve their suffering and grant their dead the highest level of Jannah. They have been an example for us for what it means to truly trust in Allah. And we ask Allah to protect all of us from having to go through what they are going through to learn this lesson, but we need to learn this lesson and practice it in our daily lives. And one method to do that is what I want to go over now. So I want you to go through a short exercise with me right now. I want you to close your eyes and think of the biggest challenge you're facing right now. Whether it's something to do with your family or your work or your health or some major goal that you're trying to achieve and you're really struggling to achieve it. I want you to bring that to your mind. And once you have that in your mind, I want you to right now take a deep breath and say within yourself, Ya Allah, I am struggling with this. Ya Allah, I recognize that I am weak and you alone have all power. So I leave this matter to you. I trust this matter fully to you. I don't expect any particular result. I'm no longer going to worry about the result. I've handed this over to you, and I will do my best with whatever result you choose, because you are the best to manage my affairs. Now, if you do this now or you do it when you have some time later, inshallah, this will grant you a sense of relief and comfort when you tell yourself, I don't need to stress about this. I've left this in the hands of the one who controls everything. He will do whatever he wills, and I will do my best, and inshallah, he will be pleased with me for it. And if Allah is pleased with me, does anything even matter? Does this result that I'm trying to achieve, does it even matter if Allah is pleased with me? إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا شر ما قضيت إنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك وإنه لا يذل من واليت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين المستضعفين في فلسطين وفي كل مكان يا رب العالمين عباد الله رحمهم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون واذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون وقيم الصلاة.
Brothers and sisters, please pray shoulder to shoulder. Make a space for the people in the aisle. If you have a space in front of you, keep moving forward. People praying on the wooden floor, please align your heels with the red tape to make your line straight. If you align your heels with the red tape, your line will be straight. So please make your lines straight and cover all the rows, please. Jazakallah khair.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استقيموا تراصوا. Leave no gaps. Stand shoulder to shoulder. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب سيصلى نارا ذات لهب وامرأته حمالة الحطب في جيدها حبل من مسد. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.